Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Please like, share and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Press like and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy Decodes. Sit back and enjoy as we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole and into the unknown.
Hello and welcome to tonight's, this evening's, this morning's show, depending where you are in the world. I'm joined by the wonderful Tony Rodrigues. Thank you for coming on. Just before we start, though, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's subscribed and members, because we've gone over the 1,000 subscriber mark. So thank you everyone that helped do that. So that was this week. 3 years that took, but we got there, so it's all good. Little introduction for Tony. So Tony is part of the Secret Space Program, where he did a 20-year tour, and it sounds quite simple, but it really isn't. So I'll let Tony explain that to you. He's also got 2 books that are out. He's got a couple more projects that he's going to be working on that he's going to be able to talk to us about. And I'll hand it over to you, Tony.
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yep.
Hopefully I sound okay.
Yeah. All good.
Hi, everybody. I'm looking in the chat. Hi, Jessica, a friend of mine from a long time ago, the Cryptid Huntress. So it's good to see you guys. Happy to be here. I'm very honored to be here. As time moves on, I've done a lot of interviews in the past, and I moved on to other projects. Like I'm in live groups now, whereas I was filming and posting stuff. So now in my I do 2 or 3 live groups where it's like a big Zoom call with everybody, and I do class. But so less interviews, and I'm working on another book. The books were really successful. They got out there, and the response I've got for both books have been really tremendous. So that's been something good. So to explain my story, the hard part is so people understand the timeline aspect of it, of how my life worked out. So currently I'm 51 years old, and but I have better than 71 years worth of memories in my head. So there's an extra 20 years that I was taken when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and for whatever reason ticked off the son of somebody who said he was an Illuminati. His dad was a corporate guy and who had access to these programs, and I ticked off his son. And I met his dad in school, and one day he came into the school to be a judge of the science fair. And the kid pointed him out, said, "That's the boy I told you about. Like, we were rivals, we didn't get along." And the next morning, had a gray ET in my bedroom, and I was taken. And the exact words were, there was a short reptilian-looking person and gray ETs, and they took me, and I felt like I was in a laboratory somewhere, and they were doing tests on me. And their exact words were, "We want to borrow your consciousness for 20 years. That's what they said. And then they did a procedure, and I woke up with amnesia in California, in Southern California, in Inyokern, at the Naval Weapons Testing Range near China Lake, Inyokern Airport. And went through a mind control program and a psychoenergetics training program that they were doing that I found a great deal of evidence. I mean, I won't go into that right now because I just want to kind of frame in what it was like, and then was shipped off to Peru and then to Seattle, and where I was doing jobs, and eventually into space. So I went to a base on the moon, and I was trained mostly through like hypnotism. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not locked up here. And then shipped off to Mars into a program to assist soldiers on the surface of Mars. So there was a well-established human presence in underground bases on Mars, on the planet Mars. There was a lot of people there, and we were support soldiers in a program. And I was there for maybe 6 months to a year. And that program got canceled, and they took me to another base on Mars and retrained me to be ship maintenance, and then shipped me off to a planetoid called CERES, with a CERES.
Yeah.
I lived there for about 12 years. And at the end of it all, they took me back to the moon and put me through a series of procedures. And I'm obviously back in time. So I went through a bunch of procedures I had grown into an adult body.
Yeah.
And I ended up back in my original 10-year-old body, and I woke up the next morning. So I was taken right around April 15th, 1982. It was a Thursday. And I woke up Friday morning with no memory of what had just happened, but I felt like I had been gone for 20 years. I was just telling you off camera. Like,
Yeah.
I ran upstairs and gave my mom and dad a big hug, and I had felt like I hadn't seen them in 20 years. Like, that gap was there.
So I was just going to say, so what did it feel like then, waking up and mentally being 30 years old, still in a 10-year-old body? That must have been the most, I've not even got words for it.
It was a
I
huge,
don't know.
It was a huge disorientation. I would say that, I'll give it's personal stuff.
Yeah.
I went to school and I didn't really fit in the way I used to. I didn't make friends the way I used to, and I was attracted to adult women. So and I was 10, so I didn't know back then. We didn't have the internet like kids do, so I didn't know what I was even attracted for, but I still had the attraction towards adult women.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why. It was very disorienting.
Wow. It must have just, I mean, it must have just messed your head up big time. It can't have been easy to put all that together and make anything from it.
Well, growing up, you think everybody, like if you have a problem, you just think if you have abusive parents, you think everybody's got abusive parents. So that's just the way it is for everybody. So you just kind of soldier on. And I didn't really understand the differences. And, I had big emotional problems, got a lot of anger. I had big anger issues when I was, especially in my mid to late teens. I was like super angry. And a lot of things worked themselves out. It wasn't until 2015 that I really had the memory recall and I remembered everything that happened. I mean, I had bits and pieces the whole time.
Yeah.
But I didn't get memory recall until 2015, and it all came back in big chunks. I call it, like that's what it felt like, big chunks of memory.
So do you think that was planned for it to come back at that point? Or did it just happen regardless of what went on?
Oops. Could you say that again?
Yeah. Do you think it was meant to happen for it to come back all in one go? Or was that just the way your mind was working? Or was it...
I don't think it was meant to happen. So I think it was kind of a perfect storm
right.
of things that caused me to get my memories back.
Yeah. So did you try and do anything to try and get your memories back?
After I did, I wanted to remember more. I wanted to expand the memories I had. So I remembered the bullet points, the highs and lows, the really big emotional things. And I wanted to remember the details. I still do. I still know there's things that I don't remember that I just haven't thought about, you know.
Wow.
And so I started making exercise. I looked around and I did not want to get hypnosis. So I've never had a hypno regression for my memories. And I didn't want to start.
Would you get that done?
What's that?
Would you ever get it done? Just to
I really
get
don't want
them
to.
missing pieces?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe one day, but I get invited. Some of the best hypnotists, man, really have invited me to do it, and I just don't feel called to do it. You know, I just feel like I have enough already.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I've made some memory exercises and actually turned it into a course. So many people were contacting me after I came public.
Yeah.
How do I remember? I know I was involved. How do I remember? And I made this course up, and I don't host it or I don't make any money off of it. I've given it away. But it's like $40. It's on my website, and it's a teachable course, a few hours that you take videos, and it gives you exercises, and it really does work.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an abductee. It really does work for any kind of long-term memory. It's a long-term memory exercise that I kind of developed, and I went, oh God, that works. And that's how I got my memories back that were, you know, I probably should work at it and pick something and keep going. But I've had my hands so busy after coming public with this and speaking about it, like it's opened doors for me.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to knock down the opportunities that come my way.
Yeah. But you mentioned remote viewing before, and I know Jessica Jones does remote viewing. So have you tried, I don't know if you can do this, but have you tried to remote view yourself to see what went on?
Not yet. Not big
No.
stuff. So I have a remote view group that we're teaching. We learn different aspects of remote viewing. So that's important that, you know, it's not like I invented the wheel or something. And we test them out and we do targets every week, and it's growing and the group's really getting bigger and it's very successful. We hit the targets. It's amazing. Even vaguely, even if you vaguely say the target, like on an off day, it still is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I haven't really flirted with that. We keep it pretty PG on the targets. You know, we pick targets that are pretty, I got to say, we had a missing persons last week. An emergency where a missing persons came up, and we remote viewed it, and a few of the viewers were very accurate. But and the FBI was able to track down the girl and rescue her. And
wow, that's amazing.
We were referred to that by somebody, you know, a friend of a friend knew about the group and then got a hold of us, and we did. And they did have accurate information about where she was and what was going on. So remote viewing is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, definitely.
We teach it in the goal of recognizing the correct voice in your head. So you always have, you know, the little devil on your shoulder.
Every day.
Well, it's not that clear cut. So one of them is right. There's a voice in there that's telling you what to do, and one of them is the correct one. And by getting in touch with remote viewing and actually seeing which one was correct, the idea is that you remember that tone of that voice or what that feels like to trust your intuition. So
I suppose it's like process of elimination, isn't it? If you go with both and see which one takes you to what you're looking for, then that's the one that you're going to go to each time, isn't it? Yeah.
When it's correct, yeah. So it's like it's just about developing that intuition or that channel to the intuition. So
got a question for you before we go to the other questions. Men in Black. So have you had any contact with them either before, during, or after the space program, or all three even?
Men in Black. So, you know what's funny is when I was little and I got back, after I got back, I was having nightmares of the Hat Man, which I didn't know was a thing. But I was having I was having very bad nightmares in the middle of the day. I'd doze off, and that was right after I got back when I was a kid, and it was like he was talking to me and in a threatening way. And I didn't know that was a thing until actually Barry Littleton, I think, was the one that explained that to me, that's a phenomenon. I started looking at it, and it's a phenomenon. So, but actual Men in Black visiting me, no.
Nothing.
I think the circumstances of my return were as such as that my records were deleted up there. So they were going to surgically remove the memories when they knew they had the technology. When they were putting me back,
Yeah.
this is a moon. This is a base on the back of the moon. Let's cut to the chase. It's a moon base full of aliens, and they were
Doesn't
putting
surprise me.
And so they were putting me through medical procedures to make sure that I was going to forget what I had experienced. And they put me through a machine that would tell them the probable futures if I would remember. And each time I remembered. They were like, oh, he's going to remember. Let's try it again. And they would put me through another round of this like shock hypnosis. And when they knew they were failed, that there was no chance, when they knew that it wasn't going to work, that I was going to get my memories back at some point, they were going to take me and surgically remove or cripple me, surgically remove the area of my brain, and then put me back like that. So and like when I got to that window, say that again.
So like a lobotomy.
They were going to give me a lobotomy. Exactly. I was going to wake up the next morning crippled. And when I got to the window, so the reptilian that had been my escort, he was security. He quit talking to me. I was dead to him. He knew what was going to happen. And so he walked me to the hospital wing. It was just like being in a hospital. Walked me to the window, and there's a gray there. He said, this one's going to get the, whatever, erased. And they said, well, they looked me up on the computer and I didn't have a record. They said, he doesn't have a record. We can't do anything to him. If we don't have a record to enter in, we can't even begin the procedure. And he said, well, he remembers. He said, and the gray told him, it doesn't matter if he remembers because there's no record. So what's he going to, there's no record. It's people that remember with a record on. So just put him back. The reptilian looked at me and said, it's your lucky day. This is your lucky day, kid. Luckiest day of your life.
Yeah.
And
so basically,
I kind of zoned out. And that was the last thing I remember before waking up in my bed the next morning.
So at that point, then, from that point, you didn't exist to them.
To them, yes, exactly. So
wow.
I slipped through the cracks in that regard, and now it's kind of too late. So I already have books out and everything.
Yeah. So did that happen to anyone else that you know? Do you have any contact with anybody else that was on there?
There have been a few people that I recognize that sought me out.
Yeah.
So this genre in general, people that come and look at shows about ETs, about sightings and extraterrestrials and all of it, the paranormal. Most of the audience I've found is attracted to these shows because they've experienced something themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So somebody that's never experienced, everybody's from the show me state. And somebody that's never experienced anything out of the ordinary doesn't want to believe in anything out of the ordinary. The people that are coming to these shows. So when I started doing shows, lo and behold, people that were also had vague memories or bits and pieces that were up there saw me and recognized me and would always, and I still get a lot of people say, I recognize you. And it's like, I don't know them back. And I look at the timeline of it, it doesn't add up. But a few people did get a hold of me and I remembered them as well. So yes, to answer your question. And I've been contacted by thousands of people in the last 8 years that say the same thing. I've been involved in something similar. Please help. And most of them don't want to speak publicly about it.
I get that.
It's very embarrassing, to put it bluntly.
Yeah. So do you find though that you have a stronger connection? So say you start talking to someone and straight away you have that connection, and then as the conversation grows, you find out that they've experienced stuff, not necessarily the same as what you have, but similar goings on.
It's the same as with anybody else. There's a little bit of two guys that played football in high school meet each other at the bar, and I played football. I was a linebacker. So there's a connection there. It's about like that. It's not anything super deep. And honestly, by now, where I'm at in this, it's been happening for so long. It's like it's almost common. It's like routine. It's common for me to
every day. Normal procedure.
A couple a week. I probably 2 or 3 people a week reach out to me brand new. I was going through my emails this morning. I'm really late on a lot of emails, but they just keep coming. It hasn't ended. It's been 8 years. There's 2016 was when I did when I went public and I did my first interview that was aired, and ever since then people have been contacting me. So
Yeah.
Going on 8 years.
Wow. So when you did that first interview, did you know what you was going to do? I know you probably got notes and wrote that, or did you just think, I'm just going to go there, just going to open my mouth, what comes out, comes out?
That's right. I don't rehearse anything. There's
No.
there have been people, I've done interviews where people sent me a list of questions and I was like, I don't read that. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's all from memory. So there's no, but the first interview I ever did, I thought that I was going to do a few interviews and then go back to life and nobody would want to talk to me again about it. But it turned, I thought that getting my memories back wasn't going to be that special. I thought that there were going to be hundreds of other people that wanted to speak about their memories that were just as good. And it hasn't been the case. It hasn't been the case. So there's very few people that want to speak publicly with their memories intact about a service in a 20-year tour.
Yeah. So with the kids at school whose father was part of the Illuminati, did he ever get in contact with you after the 20 years?
No, but I did to him. I found him and I emailed him, and he had denied ever even going to my school. But I know it was him, so he kind of denied it, and then he locked up his his Facebook was open where you could go and look at it.
Yeah.
I emailed him, and then he immediately closed all of his social media. But yeah, I found him.
Yeah,
I found several people. The difference between my 20 years and your typical person that's abducted and does it 20 years. They tend to go straight to space, into the space infrastructure. Yeah. And I was on Earth for 6 or 7 years, so I had places to go and confirm that I remember.
Right. Ah, so you wasn't obviously taken from Earth straight away. You was doing other stuff beforehand.
That's right. The first 6 or 7 years I was on Earth and I was moved from one black program to the next. When I would serve do a job, and then when I was no good at it anymore, they moved me to a different one, or at least a different place to stay.
Yeah. So have you heard of the ARC or the ARC program?
What do you mean by the ARCs?
All I know, it's called the ARC. It's to do with taking people to Mars.
No. Oh, so one of the early government
that's all
programs,
I know.
That wasn't what it was like for me. Like when I went, I was taken on a bigger craft,
right?
And straight there, it was like a one-way trip from the moon.
Yeah.
So as the ARC program, so no, I'd have to say no, I haven't heard of it.
Right. Okay. No, because I had a guest on a bit ago, and some guy asked if she wanted to go to Mars, but it wasn't so much a question. It was more of, I'm going to take you to Mars, and they kind of escaped that situation and didn't meet that bloke again. So I just don't want to give the name at the moment, but I can tell you off air who it was. You probably even know the person, so
yeah.
But I'll let you know after.
Yeah, that's fine. No, there's a few people that have been, invited to go and either turned it down or tried to get away from it. And so these programs are real. There are a lot of people that walk among us that have all their memories. They weren't taken like I was and then had their memories erased. There are people that have participated and came back and have all their memories, and they don't speak about it. They won't speak about it. It's a urban secret, like on that level. When you think about it, they bring them back, they give them a paycheck, a lump sum of money. They've been gone for 20 years, and they get whatever, a six-figure paycheck, and they buy a house. And then they say, look, if you tell anybody about it, you're going to go to jail, and B, you got to pay us back. And so it guarantees silence. It's just that simple.
Yeah. It's just, my head's just for the moment. God knows what you went through. It must have been absolutely crazy. Just, I suppose, as the memories are coming back as well. And then I'm guessing you just be walking down the street and then, oh my God, this happened. I just imagine it being like that, like it just stopped you in your tracks.
That is exactly how it was in the beginning. In 2015, in those first few months. I would pull over on the side of the road. It's just crying and just trying to process.
Yeah, the emotion.
It all. There were big moments. There were in the beginning. There were very big moments, and then, after I accepted it, and I was saying this the other day, is that I always wanted to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I always wanted to go somewhere, and then somebody would say, check something out that I remembered, and then it'd be completely different. And so that I was off the hook. And, but that hasn't been the case. I keep getting validated. I go to these places that I remember. I went back to Inyokern a few months ago.
Yeah.
I went to Seattle this summer. I went in 2016, and it was exactly how I remembered it. So that in itself is a very strong form of evidence. I mean, how could I know my way around in a place that I can prove that I've never been? And I know the history of the place. So that happened.
So did you recognize the buildings that you was taken to in these different locations?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the history of the buildings lines up. And with Inyokern, I have the t-shirt on. So after I went there, Inyokern, specifically, the buildings were gone. On Google Earth, when you looked at it, I said, well, those aren't the buildings, but they built 3 sheds where the buildings were, and the buildings aren't there anymore. And I went there, and in fact, the buildings were there. The ruins of the one where they burnt it was in portables. The other one exactly was there, and it was wide open. We walked right in and filmed it. I have film footage.
Wow.
And then the other buildings, the other trailers that the nurse had one was like a first aid trailer and like a camper, like an old 1970s camper. And then the other one was had a kitchen, had a freezers, and like was the kitchen for us kids when they were training us through this. When I went back and looked at the dates and everything, and really got into the CIA declassified library, and started really searching at all the funding and all the research and the paper trails and the declassification all lines up to the date from April of 82 to December of 82. There was a black program, like the research into remote viewing stopped, paused for those months, and then restarted in January. The funding started, and it was repackaged as psychoenergetics and not remote viewing anymore, because they used us kids that they thought were clones and did very radical experiments on us and developed telekinesis and other abilities that took it out of the remote viewing realm, and they renamed it psychoenergetics.
So was that similar, or was it kind of like a branch off from like MK Ultra?
There was an MK Ultra component of it. We exactly went in the beginning. We went through an MK Ultra programming exactly, and then when that finished, we started remote viewing, and then out of body astral travel viewing, like remote viewing with out of body experience, and then actually near death experience. They were going to bring us near death to do things with psychokinetics. And there's a great deal of info. They were bragged about it. Near death experience. Great. They said we've had a great breakthrough. This is in 1979, I think, or 1980. The Stanford Research Institute at their Christmas party had a video, and one of them said they were all hot toasting champagne, and we've had a tremendous breakthrough, very promising with children and near-death experiences.
Wow. Because you had the Montauk project as well, that was a next level from MK, wasn't it?
Well, the Montauk project was a different animal, and so I wasn't any part of that. I didn't have any kind of contact with that, and the people that did seemed to have completely different experiences. Hello. Looks like we got another.
So this is Nicole, the co-host. Thank you for coming in. I explained to Tony before we went on air what was going to happen, so it's all good. Yeah, because I know Jessica Jones went to Montauk not so long ago, and I know they tried burning that down as well and cutting the power cables and everything, didn't they?
I'm not sure. Sure. That's kind of not. That wasn't a program that I was in part of.
Right. Okay. So when they was doing like these near-death experiences, do you remember any of that? Do you remember being part of that?
Absolutely. That's actually a great deal of the premise of my second book, Project STARMAKER, is based on repeatedly being brought to near death. So they were drugging us. They gave us, we'd get an IV and a drug that they'd give us, and I would go out, lose consciousness, and it was like a near death experience. And while I was under, they would say that other people were talking through me. So they were asking me questions and they were getting answers. Like it was like a psychic in a bottle, but I was unconscious. I would wake up. It was like getting surgery, where you'd wake up from being put under.
Yeah.
And they would say, man, there were times I was in Peru at the time. I was in Peru, in a town in Peru called Puerto Tawantin. Back then it was called Puerto Tawantinsuyo. You want to hear something crazy? It's in my book, Puerto Tawantinsuyo, with the airfield. And then I was doing flights. They were shipping cocaine from there to Santa Marta, Colombia, and then off an airplane full of cocaine. And now the town has been renamed, and another town 11 miles east of that town is now called Puerto Tawantinsuyo. And on Google, there's a historical landmark that says Tony Rodrigues in the wrong town. So if you read out of my book and go to investigate, you're going to go to the wrong town. Yeah. So it's been renamed. So I got to make another version of my book that's updated, because it used to be called Puerto Tawantinsuyo, and now it's called Boca, Colorado.
So have they done that on purpose?
I'll tell you what, I emailed. So first thing we did was check in case there is a guitar player named Tony Rodrigues that lives there. Right. Yeah. So maybe it's not about me. And so that was the first thing we checked, and there's nobody from that town that has any kind of social media presence or any internet presence or anything. It was me. And then somebody had to pay to follow the links. Like somebody had to give work when you go to Google. It's like a historical landmark. It says Tony Rodrigues, and he'd go in there and it said a great place for kids. That's where that landed on, a great place for kids. And it's not the right town. So that was kind of odd for that to happen. The other thing is that when I was early on in like 2017, 2018, I remembered that the airplane was a C-46 Commando airplane. Yeah. So that was because it had because the name Commando, my handler, the guy that took care of me, loved that plane for the name. I love the name Commando. Like he saw himself as a freedom fighter. They had guns and everything. The narcos, he was a narco cartel guy. And so I remember that, and I remember that there's a distinct window in the front of the plane that I got to crawl up and lay down and look outside the window in the front of the plane once. And it was like the highlight of my life at that point. And so I remembered the plane. And so 2017, 2018, I started looking. I thought there's got to be a paper trail of that plane that would prove my account. And I found nothing. All those planes are decommissioned. There are very few of them in the air now. And I couldn't find. I don't read Spanish, so when I got to there was a barrier of finding historical documents on airplanes in Peru on Spanish. So I just gave up on it. And then early last year, 2023, I did an interview that was seen in Spanish. It was for Latin America, and some guys got a hold of me. They wanted to meet me. Sorry, I'll make this as quick as I can.
No, you're all right.
They were both served from the Peruvian Air Force. One of them was a famous pilot down there. He was a MiG-22 pilot that had a UFO incident. So he's famous in South America, in the Southern Hemisphere, in the Spanish-speaking world for a UFO incident. He's on their TV shows and stuff. And the other one was currently in the Peruvian Air Force. He's like an old retired pilot, older guy, but like still on active duty doing cargo flights.
Yeah.
And so I did this interview, and then halfway through it, I thought, wait a minute. Have you guys ever heard of a C-46 Commando in the Madre de Dios region? That's what it's called, the Mother of God, the river in that area is called Madre de Dios, the Mother of God. And I said, you ever heard of a C-46 in there? He said, oh, yeah, that was in Porto. He flew in 1990. He was a pilot in the war on drugs, and they were going to those towns that were shipping cocaine out, and they would blow up the runway. Two planes got confiscated from Puerto Maldonado, which is the next airport over from that town where they kept it. And it was a C-46 Commando. He goes, that's in Pucallpa. And it's on Google Earth. I found it and had another guy go there immediately and take pictures. And so it was exactly the plane that
one that you was in.
Right. So, but you know what I mean? It was a C-46 Commando. It's a Curtiss C-40. So the odds of me taking a wild guess at that it's impossible that I would, how would I know that? I've never been to South America, you know? So I called that out in 2016. I was on record about it. And then these guys was just last year that they confirmed it.
Yeah. So did you ever remote view that? Just
no, it's funny. No,
yourself?
We've recently remote viewed the village.
Yeah.
There, the port, which is now Boca, Colorado. The Plaza de Armas in South America. A lot of the Spanish settled towns have a plaza in the center of the town. They call them the Plaza of Arms. And then so if they've got invaded, all the guys would come and meet there, and they'd hand out weapons and make a plan. Like this is back in the cowboy days. They would always have a plaza in the town. So that plaza got built with the first shipment that I was on in '83. So because I remember they were bulldozing it and grubbing the land to build that plaza. And he said, "This is because of you, because the money from our first shipment paid for this." He's like, so I did another interview in South America in Brazil. And I said it must have been '83 that plaza was built, and people that lived in that town called the host and confirmed that plaza was built in '83. So that was another thing of
how could you even
right, exactly. And like I said, I kind of don't want it to be true too, because you gotta listen up, because to a lot of people I look like a madman saying there's a Ceres colony corporation that I was on a spaceship for years doing interstellar trade missions. And so I look crazy when I say that, but you know what? How do I know these other things? That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Nicole, have you got any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when I heard, generally what you were talking about, I was like, all right, that's a little out there. But listening to you talk, because I was listening in the first half hour, you seem like a sane person, like not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I was expecting, somebody to come in with like a tinfoil hat, but you have so many facts, so many consistencies that it just doesn't add up for it to not be true.
No. Well, that's the thing, because like I said, I'd seen them on Paranormal Versus with Michael Cox, and I thought, right, I've been wanting to watch one of these live, and I knew I'd heard of Tony a few years back. I thought, it's got to be the same guy. And I was literally throwing questions at him, and you answered every single one. And even if you didn't know, it's like, I don't know, I don't remember. You didn't, oh, well, it could have been this, it could have been that. It was like, you straight down the line. Because you'd mentioned about your arm and your leg. Do you want to tell that story? And then I'll give the question that I give when you was on the other one.
So, we were talking about making me sound crazy. When the giant bugs on Mars bit my arm off in a combat mission. So when a giant insect bit my arm off, and I made it back to base and fell out, and they put they somehow grew another arm on me in the medical infirmary. So there are indigenous insects on Mars that live underground that have massive populations, and they are many different kinds. It's all the same. I don't know how it works. It's all the same species, but there's many different kinds. And I'm sorry, I've seen a look at the chat popping up. And they were many different kinds of insects, and we were there as an experimental combat program to try to match their numbers. So they couldn't train the soldiers fast enough. So they had people like me that were minimally trained and equipped to go out there and be kind of bodies on the battlefield. It was an experiment.
Yeah.
And we went out and we did hiking missions. We hiked on the surface of Mars. I believe we had implants in our lungs that helped us breathe, but we were breathing the air.
Yeah.
And we were engaged by the insects on my third mission, and a very large one bit my arm off, literally cleaved it off. They all had pinchers that went sideways like this.
Yeah.
All of them. Even the little ones, the big ones, they had the same. They all had mouths that bit sideways. And I was bleeding, and then a giant biorhythms, but a mantid one that was different from all the other ones that were there. I mean, I'm talking about 50 of them that were surrounded me and killed the other two guys I was with. The mantid came up, and it had antennas. It had big antennas on its head and they were moving like this. And when it got close to me, they went. And I went into a dream state. The pain went away. I mean, I was gushing blood. I was like, there was another large insect holding me by my backpack. Like I was pinned. And the pain went away, and I was standing in my memories with that mantid. And it was talking to me telepath. It was cool. It was a very professional demeanor, the way that he spoke to me. And I said, I was begging for my life. Please don't kill me. Please don't. I don't want to die. Please don't kill me. The whole courageous thing just goes right out the window. I was begging for my life. And he said, look, I don't want to kill you, but just so you know, if I'm ordered to, I'm gonna, but I don't want to kill you. Let's see if what we can do. Like, he was very studious. He was very respectful to me, even in that, however you can make it in that situation. And he looked through my memories. We kept going to different places in my life. And he goes, oh, you're not even a soldier at all. He was like, you're not even a soldier. This is who you are. And he showed me in that moment my living room from the house that I had been abducted, that I had no memory of. Like, I woke up with amnesia of my life. And he goes, this is who you are. This is your home. And I remember standing there in the dream that it was. I was standing there in my suit in my living room in Michigan. And I was looking at blood. I didn't have the pain, and I was watching blood go down my suit. Like, I was soaked with blood. And then I woke up out of it, and I was back, and the pain came back. And he was like, let him go. And they just took off. And then they were about to leave. And with the little ones, it was like they were talking. There were little, like, poodle-sized beetles. They looked like beetles. And they were talking to each other. And he said, go ahead. And one of them came and bit my foot off at the ankle, my right arm and my right foot. And he cleaved it off. And I fell down, and we had auto tourniquets on us. They were like a pack of cigarettes, like the size of my wallet. And you bite the thing and put it on you and press the button, and it would tourniquet. And it's because that was the main mode of their warfare. That's how the insects do. They don't have guns and missiles like we do. They cleave you up, they bite you up. And so I put auto tourniquets on, and then 2 soldiers came and got me and carried me back. And I lost a lot of blood, and they were injecting me with drugs to keep me alive. And I'd lost a lot of blood, and I kept falling asleep. And he would smack me. They were hitting me. He was literally like, hurting me to wake me back up. And sticking me in my arm. He actually had something. He was poking the sore of my arm to wake me up. And as soon as I saw the entrance to the base there was a natural rock overhang, and underneath of it there was big doors. That was the entrance to the base, so you couldn't see it from the sky. And as soon as we saw the doors, he let me go to sleep. And I remember that feeling was just amazing. I was like, finally, I never wanted to sleep so bad. And he let me go to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, or however long else. I don't know how long it may have been a day or two. I don't know. But I woke up in the infirmary with my arm and my foot back. I was like good as new. I was good as new. I had to do a debrief. They asked me questions about the bugs, what happened, what was the inner, because they saw the whole thing when the bugs we were gay. They were watching, and they asked me questions about it, and that was it. And they canceled the program after that because we had taken losses way too early. Like, they had a curve of what was going to happen, and they said the bugs adapted faster than they expected, so they just canceled the program. And then I got sent to a bigger city on Mars, which was a good-looking place. Like, it was somewhere that was fancy, and a larger city, big domes that are under the dirt, and palm trees and waterfalls and things. And I was retrained. They gave me tests, and they trained me to do ship maintenance. And then I was shipped off to CERES, where I lived the rest of my 20 years. I lived about 10 to 12 years on CERES Colony.
But didn't you say, though, that you wasn't sure how they repaired your body? And you mentioned about clones. You've got different.
I was very badly hurt again years later on a ship accident in space, and taken back. I was burnt very badly, and it was the same thing. They took me to the hospital, the infirmary area, and they put IVs in me, and I lost consciousness, and I woke up good as new. It was quick. So maybe they're growing a whole new body and put you in it. Maybe they have other tech. I really don't know. I wish I had answers, because the medical stuff is probably the most common question. Like tell me more how they did it. Everybody wants to be healed. That's the thing. Like, we're chronically, the world right now, after a certain age, we're like chronically sick, and everybody wants the med beds, and they want this technology to live longer. And it's kind of like, there's a lot of rumors about it. We know they're going to give us med beds here soon, and that's great and everything. But I mean, you gotta live your life. You gotta live your life.
Yeah.
Pray for a miracle. You gotta just every day.
Yeah, because sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask, with all that stuff that you've seen on Mars, do you think that you went to the real physical Mars that we see, up in the sky, or do you think
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the other thing is, I got to look. I don't remember exactly when the first rovers were there, but we didn't get really good Mars pictures until the second, like, Opportunity rover. And when I got my memories back of Mars, I remember, because we had boots that were like a cleats. Like, we had a really comfortable, the environmental suit was not made out of the things that we know clothing to be, or suits to be. Like, it was a very advanced material. It was literally freakishly comfortable. Like, it moved with me. And the boots had a certain feel to them that were very unique. And I remember that when we first went out of those doors that I spoke about, when we first went out, we had to acclimate to the gravity. Inside the doors, it was artificial gravity. We had to acclimate to the gravity, and I remember thinking it was sandy, and my boots would sink in the sand, and it was difficult. And I thought, this is going to suck. But we didn't walk but a couple hundred yards later, and it got hard. There's actually most of the surface of Mars is hard rock with sand on top of it.
Right.
So it was very easy to walk on, and our boots were perfect for it. Like, we had cleats, but they were smaller, and I was like, oh, this is nothing. It was very, running was the hard thing to do. It was hard. It was difficult to run. You could walk around just fine, but you couldn't run because you would lose your step because of the gravity. And anyhow, to make it long, sorry if I'm on a tangent from the question.
No,
when the Opportunity rover when we started to get quality pictures of the surface of Mars back from those rovers, I went, oh God, that's exactly it. That is exactly what I remember. It was exact. The sunset, all of it. And so Mars is the first thing that skeptics attack. So they go, you can't breathe on Mars. There's only 1% of the atmosphere. And I was in a call one time, I think it was MUFON. And there was a guy in there that was a scientist, and he was like, got angry. And he said, no, you can't burn it. I said, look, I'm telling you what I remember, just the same way I'm telling you what I remember about Peru and about Seattle and about California. It's the same thing. And those all came true. So it's not up to me I'm presenting you with the data. I'm not telling you got to believe it. I'm just saying in the future, where people are going to be there in the future. That's the thing. So,
but the thing, you can only tell us what you experienced and what went on. And regardless of whether anyone believes you or not, you're just sharing what happened to you. And that's all any of us can do.
Yeah, that's it. And, like, I don't have some ulterior motive of trying to, it's not disinfo to believe that. Like, I'm not saying to believe me. I'm saying to use the information in the future if it's usable.
Yeah.
And but it turns out that 1% of the atmosphere of the Earth on Mars, on a planet half the size, is actually quite a bit. The Martian atmosphere is much taller than the Earth's atmosphere. It goes up 140 miles. The Earth is only like 110, something like that. But there's actually quite a bit of air, because even 1% of our atmosphere on a half the size planet is a great deal of air. There were, I remember the weather would happen fast. When we were there, when we would do the walks, it would be a sunny day. We went out in the daytime, it'd be a sunny day and pleasant. Cold, it was colder, but it was kind of pleasant. The suit had heat and everything. But then in the blink of an eye, it took only a minute or two for it to be totally a windstorm and a dark sky. Like, it would happen fast, and it would disappear just as fast as it arrived. Like, the atmosphere was very dynamic. Quite a lot going on.
Wow. Right. Are we okay to have a break? Or do you want to ask anything before we go? It's only 3 minutes.
Yeah, go for it.
No, is that all right? We'll do a 3-minute break, then we'll go to the questions, and then if Nicole's got anything, we'll do them as well, yeah?
I'd love to. Thanks.
Perfect. Right, see you in 3 minutes.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and we are back. Oh, we've all moved around one. I'll leave it. We'll do the musical chairs. We'll just leave it as it is. Is that all right? Cool. Right. Thank you for coming back on. Nicole, have you got any questions before we jump to the ones in the chat?
I was going to ask, do you think that we went to the moon and discovered
Absolutely.
there?
Oh, yeah. I think that both things happened. So because of the filming, they discount the trip to the moon. But I think that they went to the moon and they were filming it in case something bad happened, that they could cut to the film and have control of the live feed, because the whole world wanted to see it back then. The world was a different place when we went to the moon. And I absolutely believe we went to the moon. So there's a lot of evidence around it too.
Yeah.
But that we see these things pop up. You know, I hate to always use flat Earth theory as my example, but there's a lot of disinfo out there, and all of it has the same common denominator: the flat Earth theory, and then they push simulation theory, and then we never went to the moon. There's no space. The Van Allen belts. They all have the same common theme: is to convince people that there's nothing to look up at. There's absolutely nothing up there to worry about.
Yeah.
When in fact it's the opposite. That's the problem. That's the thing, is our elites are doing business and probably are people from other worlds that are pulling the strings down here, and so they don't want you to look at even in the direction of the influence that is doing negative things to us. And so that's what I think is the motivating force behind these rumors. But yeah, I believe we went to the moon. I believe the moon is a finish line. I believe that the ETs were like, they put us here, they watch us, they use us for any of 1,000 different things. And if we make it to the moon, then we can join them. And the Germans made it to the moon in World War II, right prior to World War II. And then the Americans went to the moon, and then they never had to go to the moon again because they had access to their technology at that point, and we went to the moon secretly ever after. There's a thing, so what happened in 1970, where everything changed in 1970. The consumption of food, the education, all the population, all of it, everything changed in 1970. And they go, what happened in 1970 make the whole world change? All these things changed. Well, we went to the moon in 1969.
Yeah.
So we hit the finish line and we had access to AI and all these advanced technologies, and these organizations, these corporations in the research began shaping the world to be what it is today from that. So the moon, so the other thing is these were individual governments that went to the moon. So when they went there, it was their organization that had access to the ET. So they go, well, you have a spaceship, you made it here, now you're one of us. You can do business. Here's, a spaceship. And here's how to do it 20 and back. So now we're going to go to the moon with private companies from the civilian world. So I think that may be an excuse or a catalyst for disclosure to say, we built our own rocket, the humans did, without government help, without any kind of influence. We built our own rocket, got to the moon. So now we join you and we get a disclosure. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it plays out something like that. But I think the moon is a finish line. I think the Germans got there. I think other species in the past got there in our history that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And I think the United States got there, and that was the beginning of our secret space program.
Yeah. But I'd asked you before about the moon itself, about it being as far away as we're told it is.
Yeah, I looks like I'm lagging a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It'll go fast and it'll all catch up, and I don't know what this.
Well, they do the laser experiments, the laser finder on the moon. It comes out at an average of 238,000 miles. So the laser experiments are there. I don't know if anybody's bothered to do it, but the laser mirror that you can hit is still there. So if somebody built a laser big enough, you could do a rangefinder and find out on your own.
Right.
Actually, what's funny is my dad worked at the Haleakala Observatory, and he was working on the cooling system for that laser. They were shooting back in the moon missions in 69 and 70. They were putting a mirror, like a special box on the moon, and they were shooting lasers at it to get the distance. And he said it was a big ruby, like a $5,000 ruby, and they'd burn it out in 30 seconds and just throw it. They had a pile of them. They'd throw them away and just grab another one. $10,000 all day long. They were shooting it, and they never hit the target. They couldn't hit the thing. They finally figured it out, but when he was working there, they couldn't hit the target. And he had a degree in pneumatics. He was working on the cooling system for the laser. He was the maintenance guy for it.
Yeah. Right. Like I say, we've got a couple of questions. Do you want to jump to that now?
Yeah, fine.
Right. So this one's from Ogita or Elaine. She's asking, Tony, are you not scared that something will happen to you now that you've come public?
So the thought crossed my mind. In the beginning, I was really scared. And, Dr. Sala, who I did my first interview with, I asked him, I said, should I do this? And he said, this is going to protect you. Because now, even if we do this podcast or this show tonight, you and I, Andy and Nicole, and then we hang up and I go and choke on a chicken bone.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go, it's something he said on the podcast. He was a martyr. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only going to validate me. They have to make me, like in Gladiator, they have to kill your name first, and then they'll.
Yeah.
So it's too late. I came out with information really quick, and I'm also kind of introducing technologies that I remember. So I'm working on a learning program, a learning company based on the way that I got trained on Mars. So it was a different kind of school, and I've been working on that. I'm actually come quite a long ways, and I don't think they're going to kill me now. I think I'm the golden goose. They want to see what else I can come up with, because I've also uncovered some black projects that some technologies that I'm working on, and I talk about in my private life and communicating with people.
Yeah.
I know it's intercepted, so I think they want to see what I can keep remembering. So I think right now I'm valuable.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, I think before anything else, they try to like invalidate you, make you seem, crazy before they'd off you.
There's definitely effort. There's definitely a real effort about that too. So
cool. Thank you. I kind of asked you this, but I'll put up anyway. This is from Curious Kitty, and she's asking, does Tony know of other people who went through the same thing? Obviously, you do, because you speak to them.
Yeah. Well, public people, Randy Kramer, Jason Rice, Jean-Charles Moyen. There's a host, Kevin Trimmel, Penny Bradley. There's a host of people that I'm forgetting. It's been so long. In the beginning, we all talked together.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we all talked to each other all the time, and now it's not so much. But a lot of people, Jackie Kenner, my editor, it's like a commonplace for me. There's a lot of people. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating when I say a few thousand people have contacted me saying that they've been through the same thing, and I sit and talk to them, and they have things that line up. No concrete proof. Nobody has concrete proof. You know why? Because it's illegal. If I had concrete proof, they would arrest me. It's absolutely illegal to have concrete proof of a black program. Yeah. And so I would get arrested. But if somebody says the same thing every time, if you hear from one guy that lives in Europe and they go, look, I was taken and I was in a room with a gray, and on the left-hand side, there was a bowl of grapefruit, right?
Yeah.
And you go, okay, well, that's weird, but okay, what else happened? And he goes off and tells the whole story. Then somebody else later from California had never had any contact with that guy. And they go, yeah, I was abducted. And then there was a gray, but what's funny is there was a bowl of grapefruits. You have to perk up and listen and kind of give merit to that. No matter how outlandish the whole thing sounds like, how would they both identify the same things and never have contact with each other and live thousands of miles away? And then it keeps happening. It keeps happening. And there are common denominators of people that experience this that are that keep popping up. So there's a lot of people, to answer your question.
No.
How widespread do you think this is? If there's thousands of people who have reached out to you, do you think that there's so many more that just haven't remembered?
Absolutely. So I do the math on it. When I look at the crew of guys, the crew of ETs, the people that were not human, the non-human people that took me, was a crew of 4. And I was probably worked on 3 or 4 hours. And so they took me so they could do 2 or 3 a night. And in a giant base the size of a shopping mall with 10 or 15 stories, if you multiply all that, you quickly get 100,000 a month or so. And it works out to a few million a year. And then you look at it the last 50 years, 50 or 60 million people easily. And that's being very conservative. So 50 million people is 6 out of 1,000 on the planet. So out of every 1,000 people, which you pass that on the road pretty quick, 6 of those people were in the programs. So that's probably close to the range. I mean, like I said, these numbers are all just guesses.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could be way off, but it seems realistic to me that 6 out of 1,000 is completely feasible.
Yeah,
that's incredible numbers, though. If you think about it like that, how many people have experienced this and may not even know it.
That's right, and gone up there. And so, if you like, I'm in challenge of starting a company. It's like the learning company is, I need people for that, and the people are expensive. It's very cheap to have a website, and it's cheap to buy all the equipment to do things, to do the job. It's the people that cost. Labor is the most expensive thing for any endeavor, and people are the best robots. So everybody says, oh, bull, they would make robots, and that's not true either, because robots are not innovative, and they use more energy. Like last year, Andy, you used the same amount of energy, electricity, that your body in the entire year of everything you did in the entire year your body used the same amount of energy that a 25 watt light bulb uses in 24 hours. So we are extremely energy efficient. We can heal each other. We can innovate new ways. If you put us on a job, we'll figure out a better way to do it over time. And if you leave us alone, there'll be more of us somewhere. So we are way better. We are by far the best robot, and we're extremely. There is the big one that people don't want to realize is that we are extremely programmable. People are programmed to believe whatever they want you to believe, and we will defend it. Once people are programmed, I mean, I don't even want to get into the examples of that, but people are extremely programmable. So we are a great robot.
Yeah, thank you. Nicole, do you want to read this?
Tangents.
Yeah, it's fine. Tangents are great. Nicole, do you want to read this question out from Derek? Sure. I'll put it on the screen. There you go.
So what I want to know is, Tony, are there still terrestrial beings from Mars still living there? I was told there was a nuclear war on Mars that wiped out their species.
So I don't know about the history of what happened there. And if I do the math on it, I was there in like 88, maybe 87, 88 was when I was there. So anything could have happened since then. But they were all underground. Everything took place underground. And they would interact by going up on the surface and walking around. So I would assume that they're still there. These insectoids must have been there for a very, very long time. And I don't see anything that would have happened to Mars that would have made them go away. So that's the best of to answer your question. I believe they're still there.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Ogate, and she's asking, Tony, so if you had died, would you have woken up the next day, I wonder? So that's going back to when you got your injuries.
So I think I would have came back sooner. I do. I think that there's a safety in the technology. So they take people, and by whatever means, they put them out there for 20 years. And if you die out there, you would wake up in your original body. Maybe your soul would find its way to its original body. In the past, I never really talked about that in interviews because it just gets kind of wooey. You know, when you're talking about your soul and what happens after death, it's like, it's a gray area to speculate on that. But my impression that they gave me was that if I I was going to be out for 20 minutes on the table. When they first took me from my home, they said, you're going to go and you're going to be out for 20 minutes. And we'll know if you die out there because you'll come back earlier. You'll wake up earlier. That's kind of what they said to me. So it's my impression that it was a time dilation from my consciousness that they were using to drive this other body. And that if I would have died, I would have just woke up earlier than the 20 minutes was over, or however long it was over.
Yeah. No, thank you. Do you want to do the next one, Nicole? Sorry, you're getting all the big ones. Sorry about this.
All right. So Derek is asking, do you know how much energy it takes for the transport portal devices used to teleport people from Earth to Mars? And when was the technology mastered? And do you know the industries?
So to be perfectly honest, I don't know the answer to any of those questions. But I will say that I know that our ship was a cargo ship, and it could make its own portal and go to other star systems. It would take us 3 or 4 jumps. They called them bridges. They didn't call them portals. It was a bridge. Today we're going to go here. We're going to bridge here. We're going to do our mission. This is the first leg of the mission. Then we're going to bridge again. So that's how they called them bridges. Our ship could make its own bridge and go about 1/3 or 1/4 of the way across the galaxy. And it was in petawatts. The output of that ship was in petawatts. How many, I don't know, but I remember they would brag about it.
Right. No, thank you. Next question is I've got to ask this question. I'm sorry, I can't resist. So, baby with a laser. I want to ask if you brought back a car sticker or a fridge magnet. So, but did you bring anything back that you know of from your time spent there?
The knowledge. I had a mark on me the next day. I probably have an implant in me.
Yeah.
And the knowledge of what I went through. So, like I said, I'm bringing back a new form of learning. a new form of learning system that I'm literally working on that computer, and it's gone a long way. I have investors, and I've been working on it over a year now. It's going to take over my life very shortly when it goes live, and I'm working on a corporate training videos that it's a new way of training, instead of just watching a YouTube. So I brought that back. So I'd like to say that to anybody else. I know there's some other people out there that claim that they went up, and all they've come back with is BS.
Fair enough. Thank you. Next question is from Dogman UK. You want to go on, Nicole?
Yeah. So, Tony, can the ETs have planted this information in your mind, sir, so that it hides what else is going on?
So good question. And there's no way for me to say definitely, because it's happening to me, right? It's like if you're on stage and you there's no way you can definitely know what you look like on stage, right? So I just have to present. And I've considered that, right? I've considered, like, what if these are screen memories? But these are accurate screen memories. So when I was in my time in Seattle, many times out there, people remarked about, I have green eyes, I have black hair and green eyes, and people would remark about it. Oh, wow, look at his eyes. And so that led it to, and I looked like me in the mirror. That's what I remember. When I brushed my teeth in the morning, I looked like me. Yeah. And then Inyokern, the last trip to Inyokern, the buildings there's no record of that. There's the things I found, I made a show about it. The things I found there's no way that they would bother putting those memories in me. And to what end? What am I doing that does anything that makes a difference? Why would they bother putting those memories in me? You see what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't they do that to a politician? Why wouldn't they do that to somebody, a television celebrity, a Hollywood actor? Why wouldn't they do it to somebody that's going to get really noticed? I'm just a jackass from Michigan. You know what I mean? Like, if they did that to me, that's a lot of effort. There's 20 years of memories that are accurate memories, accuracy. Why? So that's my question. I can't think of a good reason why.
Well, I just thought that maybe they've give it to you because if it is an actor, maybe they think, like the way Jim Carrey does it when he's talking about stuff. People think, is he telling the truth? Is he tongue in cheek, or is he messing about? With politicians, how many people believe politicians? Not very many.
Sadly, too many.
I mean?
Sadly, way too many.
Well, yeah.
Right. I say that as a joke, but it's not funny. So, but sadly, a lot of people believe most people believe what the mainstream regurgitates for them. Yeah. I mean, we had a real-time live demonstration that factored in life and death a few years ago, and people bought everything hook, line, and sinker. People were cutting holes. So people were cutting holes in masks to play musical instruments and thinking it was going to save a life. So, you can't really put your trust and faith in people these days.
No. So maybe they wanted the truth out there, and that's why
I was allowed to live. So that's the other thing. I think there have been people like me all along. I think the last 60, 70 years, there's been a guy like me or 10 guys like me a year, and they just took care of them. And at some point they quit shutting us up. So they're just letting it happen because we're getting into the end game now, and we're going to get disclosure soon. We're going to get some shocking things in this next year. I can't tell you how I know, but I can tell you that I know that in the 2024, we are going to have some absolutely shocking things happen that make the pandemic look like a sneeze. They make it look minor.
It was interesting. Everybody's reaction to, what disclosure they did give us. Everybody was kind of like, yeah, we know. They were expecting a big thing.
You could have told us 80 years ago. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's all old news, and people are ready. All the tired excuses, like people will die if we disclose and tell that's bull. People are absolutely ready and will believe whatever the truth is presented about disclosure and ETs. It's the natural order of things. Like it's like telling people that live in the city there's no forest. and saying they're not ready. If they find out that a forest exists, they're going to want to go there and live. No, it makes no difference. It's nature where everybody wants to know what their environment is, and the earth is not all of nature. Nature extends beyond the sky. It continues, and the ETs themselves, like the nature up there. So they're not all just one group of people that are the same, or they're not all angels. It's like a forest. So some of them are fuzzy and warm, and some of them have teeth. And so it's just like walking through a forest. You're going to the same odds. It's just like that's what space is like. That's what deep space is like. Exactly what I remember.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry,
So,
sorry if I'm on a soapbox.
Yeah. Have you had any sort of visitations since you've been back that you know of?
In the beginning, yeah. When I first came public with my story, there was a being that visited me. I didn't see it with my own two eyes. It stood outside, and there was a communication, and it asked me what my intention was by telling my story. And I said, it was wrong what they did to me, and it was wrong with these exact words. I don't know why I said it, but it's wrong what they did to me, and it's wrong what they did to her, and I'm going to let people know. And it showed me a bunch of things. Like the communication was not in words. It's hard to explain, but there was a definite visitation. And when I went out a couple days later, where I perceived it, like right on the outside, I had slider glass doors by and a porch where I slept next to my bed. And at the end of the porch where I perceived it standing, there was a circle of mushrooms that grew. And then it disappeared. And then it showed me the future. It showed me traveling and speaking. It said, you're going to be allowed to do this. And so that was in 2016, summer of 16.
Thank you for that. Nicole, you've got any questions? We've got a couple more before we end.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, before you came into your memories and everything like that, did you have anything, weird fears, or, did you have any pains or anything that once you remember just kind of made sense?
Yes, lots. So, right, a lot of weird stuff about me. Like we were talking about when I woke up, I was different, and that was weird my whole life. And then I had memories of being abducted. I didn't have all my memories back of how it happened. I thought I was abducted many times, but I would have these bleed through memories of being on a ship or being on a base and standing next to an ET. And in the beginning, I was a kid. I remember being 10 years old with ETs. And then I would remember being an adult, and I said, when did they take me? Maybe they took me again, and I just couldn't figure it out. And when I heard about the phenomenon that they take you for 20 years and then put you back the same day, William Tompkins chronicled it very good in his book, Selected by Extraterrestrials, and Randy Kramer chronicled it very good in his exopolitics interviews. And that's when I saw that, I said, oh God, that's what happened. And then as soon as literally that moment when I said, they kept me for 20 years, then all the memories, I was kind of fighting the memories off because they didn't make sense. They didn't have a place to fit into my life, because I still had memory of my life of my Michigan life. And once I gave those memories a place, then it's kind of like they unpacked and they all happened. I described it the other day, and it really is an accurate description to say at that moment, it was like poking a vacuum sealed bag and a foam mattress in a little vacuum seal, and you poke a hole in it and it explodes. That was the experience. That was what my memories did. It was like I poked that vacuum sealed bag and then the memories exploded.
Oh. Wow.
That's interesting that it all just kind of comes back like that once you give it the space and allow it to happen.
Once it made sense, once there was a linear place for it to be where it made sense and it wasn't, crazy, then it was easy to access the memories.
Were you ever scared that you were, going crazy, or you weren't really remembering these things?
So in the beginning, I was processing a lot of trauma. Like I was in Seattle when I was 13 after Peru. I mean, I was badly sexually abused and beaten. And so I was processing that. And so there's a real problem for a guy to wake up and remember being abused in that way. And I wanted counseling. And I actually got into the phone book where I was. The day I remember it, and I thought, I got to talk to somebody about this. I'm screwed up. I was like really lost emotionally. And I got in the phone book and I looked at counselors, and I realized like they're just gonna medicate me. The only thing that's gonna happen if I go to a counselor is they're gonna go, wow, you need this medicine. And you know what I mean? Which I knew I didn't need, because I've been pretty, like you said, you identify me as a sane person. I've been functioning in society and sane my whole life, like
Yeah.
Other things would have gone wrong by now if I had a mental problem about it, and they haven't. I'm a normal guy. I've raised a family. I have a career, and I knew that was the case. So doing interviews like this was really the therapy, and it's been 8 years, going on 8 years now.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to really unpack a lot of it and put it behind me, put a lot of the painful stuff behind me. I like I'm reading some of these questions in here.
Yeah.
In the chat.
I can pop them up if you want to go through any.
Please.
So, where are they? There we go. So this is from Ogate. Another question, Tony. So are you scared of dying now that you've seen the near-death experience?
No, it's so I want to say that I would never ever not fight for every second of life, right? So being alive, the people, my loved ones, and I'm in a very happy place in life right now. I would never ever want to die, but because of what I remember from those near-death experience, I'm not afraid of dying either. And I want to say that there's almost this level of excitement. So there's an old Indian proverb that I live by. I always tell people this, and I'm like, I saw it on a TV show. But that the joy of death is hidden from us so that we may endure life. So if you knew how awesome it was to die, you'd be like, well, what am I even care? You know what I'm saying? Like, screw this. We would kill ourselves. But really, the joy of that is hidden from us so that you'll endure the hardship, because life is a huge gift, and this is the only place you can really learn things in this way. And so this plane of existence is absolutely necessary, and you've only got so much life. You got to make the most of it. But as far as what I remember of those experiences, especially chronicled in my second book, Project STARMAKER, that book was about the near-death experiences, and especially from what I remembered from that, I'm not afraid of it. It's another natural state. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not afraid of dying. Everybody dies, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's like asking me if I'm afraid to go to sleep. It's like I've got to go to sleep. We all sleep. So
yeah.
No point being afraid of it.
Yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's really nothing to be afraid of, honestly.
No, thank you for that. There's a question. It wasn't directed for you, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I've not got a clue what it is.
The Q one?
So, the Q clock.
The Q clock. I was reading that.
Yeah, so it's from Baby with a Laser. Anyone in the chat seen or is aware of the Q clock that's appeared FW1W or IW?
For what it's worth.
Sorry?
No, I have no idea.
2 hours to go.
No, I have no idea what that is, but
no.
See what I mean? Look, I said 2024 is going to be a wild ride, and I'm not kidding. So there's going to be some shakeup. The world in 2025 is not going to be what the world is at this moment. I'm telling you. I've heard it from behind the scenes people and from many different sources. We're in for some big changes. There's going to be some big events this year.
Good or bad, or
yes,
both, everything
changes. So you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be changed. Right. So it just depends on where you're at. The thing is, there's no changing the world without hurting people and without helping people. There's really no way to do it. So there's so many of us doing at so many different stages in our lives.
Yeah.
Some people, like even the pandemic, when the world shut down, some people were okay. You know, if you were lucky in a point in your life where you were okay and you could handle it, but some people died from it because they were not ready to go without work for those days. And so you get what I'm saying? Like, some people got caught off guard and some people were okay and made it okay. And it's going to be the same way. That, like, my thing is, I've been telling all my friends and family, like, stock up, like, take some money out of the bank, put it in gold or silver and tuck it. Take it. You don't put it all in the bank. The banks are going to have a big problem here in a minute. And stock up on the toilet paper now and be ready for it, man. Something's going to happen.
Well, do you know what? I know it's going a bit off topic, but during the pandemic, nothing other than not being able to go out and do anything, nothing changed. I carried on working. We carried on going to the shop. Just because I work in the medical field, both me and my partner. So our day to day didn't change. Nothing changed. I was still getting up at the same time and doing the same job. I was just you weren't allowed to go anywhere. Not saying I didn't, but you weren't allowed to go anywhere.
Where I'm at.
So nothing changed for me really, other than
I was able to work, but what I'm saying where I'm at, the food industry, and I don't mean the waiters and waitresses as entry level. I mean the restaurant owners, people that were making 250,000 a year, lost everything.
Oh yeah.
Bankrupt, lost house, all of it. So
major
business, mom and pop's businesses were devastated across the world, and so that's what I'm saying. Some people carried on like nothing. Like, what are you guys complaining about? Just wear a mask. And other people were like, look, man, we are dying here. And there were people that got evicted. They, the way that you could waive the payments, not everybody adhered to that. Not everybody honored the system, and people got evicted. Like there was some terrible. What I'm saying is, there's so many people at so many stages in life, and so many circumstances. There's no changing everybody at once without hurting somebody. And that's what we saw, and I expect more of it this year. That's my little hunch, Tony's hunch.
And people are very resistant to change. They like what they know.
Yeah, well, you're right, and you only adapt when you have to. Why wouldn't you? You're gonna stick with what works until it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So things are gonna not work very soon.
Yeah,
is my point.
There's an update on the Q clock,
So maybe the Q clock is going to tell is it counting down or is it counting up?
I don't know. It says
is it a timer or is it a countdown? That's my question.
No idea.
Are you guys familiar with Q, the QAnon thing?
Yeah, and careful how you say it. You could get banned. So 17, call them 17. So they made all these codes because you can get banned from it. So
I had no idea it was so serious. Like the banning of everybody about it.
Wow. Yeah, Congress passed it in here. So Congress passed a law that said that nobody in the Pentagon and in the government offices could say Q, could speak about it. That's literally a congressional act. They passed it right at the end, right a few, I think 3 months before the election, the 2020 election. They passed that. I remember seeing and I was like, what? Why would they do that?
Yeah, why would they do that if it was nothing? And why would they even address it and not just let, like all the other conspiracies, people think you're crazy?
Yeah, exactly. Why would they defame it rather than validate it? So because it was that dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm just going to read out what this says because this goes out on podcast as well. So it's saying 6 o'clock can be dangerous. Green skies are on the way. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing, or worse to that.
Well,
I don't know. I really don't know.
In the beginning, I kind of watched it and followed it. Obviously, it's kind of this cold conspiracy stuff is in my wheelhouse as what I talk about. And what I realized was that whole thing, the way the governments are playing out, I kind of treat it as the volcano. Right. So everybody's worried about what's going on. Like, is this going to happen? But really, it's a volcano in the distance, and you have no say if it's going to happen tonight or in 1,000 years. It's a volcano. It's going to do what it does no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere you're going to go either. So you're on an island with a volcano. And so to sit and worry about it constantly is just going to ruin your life. Just worry about your yard and take care of you and be ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, have your garden hose ready in case the volcano comes, in case the lava flow comes. To, like, do what you can, but don't worry about it. The volcano is going to happen when the volcano wants to. It's like we are at a level, and we're watching titans fight in the world. The last 5 years, we've watched the titans take off the gloves and drop the pretense and battle each other. And so that's why these wars are breaking out. There's a lot of things going on. There's people that are disagreeing that are so powerful. We have no say in what's going to happen.
Cool, thank you. I don't know whether to be worried or happy. I'm just not going to think about it.
That's the best course of action. Just ignore it until it happens.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you can do something, you should, right? So if you
Oh,
can do
yeah,
something, you should.
yeah.
But you're not going to tell a single mom before that she's could go get on the bandwagon and with the go down for the Q rally. Like, why would you do that? She's not going to. You know what I'm saying? If you can do something, you if you get the opportunity, you would.
Yeah. No, thank
So
you.
another potentially dangerous topic. You said the Illuminati were involved in your whole abduction and everything. Are
The
you?
kid.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Like, how widespread do you think that all of the conspiracies about the Illuminati and the government and everybody in power is true?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a fraternity. So we mis label them as Satanists. And they're Satanists, their version of Satanism, and it is Satanism. Their version of Satanism is a fraternity. It's not a religion. It's a technology and a fraternal order. And so the lower level Satanists are the ones that are practicing a religion, the kids that are on the street burning candles. And they have no idea what really goes on at the top because it's a secret technology. I witnessed it.
Yeah.
And they are definitely in charge. They're using the occult technology to get information from extra dimensional beings on how to run the world, how to take over the world. And so the royalty has been doing this all along, the crown, and that's how they've seized power over time. They've been at it for thousands of years, and it is a fraternity, and not everybody's in it. And you can see the ones that are in it nowadays. You can see by their behavior who Hollywood's in it. Certain people are, certain corporate people are in it, and it's around the globe. And I'm looking at some of these questions, and I'm thinking of how much I should tell you guys about this stuff. But there's a lot more. You know, I don't know how much time we have, but it is a fraternity, and it's very big, and it's very widespread, more than we want to admit. And they are Satanists. They are not worshiping God. They are worshiping a being on another level of reality. Right. So,
no, thank you. Well, I know you've got to shoot off soon. Quite literally, it is.
I'm still looking at
time out.
Some of these questions here. There was a good one up here of how many aliens do you think there are? I think that was
how many types? Yeah.
This is a great question because I had a conversation with a superior officer when I was on the ship. When I was a cargo engineer on a trade ship.
Yeah.
From CERES, and we would fly to other star systems and other galaxies and trade with ETs. We had to go. There is a base around Jupiter. There is a space station in orbit around Jupiter, and it's a trade. It's like a bulletin board. So these are in all of the areas. Like a station like that is all over the galaxy. It's a trade organization.
Yeah.
And we would go there, and the officers from the ship, we'd dock, and the officers from the ship would get off and go in and send messages to ETs that were willing to trade. So there's a bulletin board to willing to trade, and they would make appointments for us. And I would get it on the manifest because I was the cargo engineer. So I had to have everything out of the way by 3 o'clock because we're landing at this next world. We're taking out cargo. And I said, we missed one. We went late. And we were supposed to go to another world, and we missed it. And I asked the guy, I said, what are we going to do? Are you going to apologize to them? He said, nah. I said, you're not going to apologize to them? You made an appointment, and we're not going to go back? He said, no. I said, well, what if they had tech that we were after, and it was important, and now they're mad they won't have us back? You know, like I was like, isn't that? He said, this was his quote to me. He said, right now, he told me how many ships. There was 20 or 30 ships like ours that were doing the missions.
Yeah.
5 stops a day. He said right now there's 40 ships. He said if there were 4,000 ships doing 10 stops a day for the next 1,000 years, we wouldn't make it into 1% of 1% of the available world. There are trillions of places that we can go and trade with. Wow. That is the scope of civilization out there. So it's so mind-boggling. Like 1 out of 7 stars has an Earth around it with its own civilization. So they're all at different levels of development, and an X number of those are ready for trade. So it's endless. So the number of species out there is endless, and that's the true situation. So that's the other thing. Like the flat Earth, don't look up. The other thing you hear is, oh, there's only 90 species. There's only 20 species or 10 species that we interact. That's bullshit. There's endless amount of species up there. It's like, it's just about as far as you can go. How far are you going to travel, and how many can you hit in one day?
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very. Have you got time for 3 more questions?
Yes.
Cool.
See if my person got back with me about where I'm supposed to go.
Do you want to check that first before we carry on?
Okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Excellent.
I don't even know what time.
Right. Next question. Dogman UK. Tony, where does God fit into all of this? There you go. Straight to
Yeah.
the point.
So the programs really were putting atheism on us. They really wanted the workers to be atheists. But I was born with the belief in a creator God, and I've always had it. And it was a natural thing. Even when they erased my memory, I woke up with a belief in a creator God. Like, I don't subscribe to the religious version, but I think that the entire universe was created by a mind and actually is a being. I think the entire universe is a living being. And that's my version of it. And I would never force my views of God or on any of you, because your relationship between you and God is between you and God.
Yeah.
And nobody else. And so when you die, the moment that you die, you're going to be all alone. Even if you're in a room with your loved ones, like, you're going to face that moment by yourself. And that's between you and what happens. But my personal belief is that the universe itself is God. And that there is a creator God. It was intelligent creation, or what do they say? It was intelligent. So we didn't just happenstance randomly get to where people are walking around and have get on stage and tell jokes. Like that was intelligent. That wasn't intelligent design. So I believe in that.
Yeah.
And
no, I've just started thinking about that not so much God, but all this energy, everything is all part of the same thing. And it's the universe that's controlling everything. I can't think of it being anything else. It's the only thing really that makes sense to me. But like I said, it's everyone's own belief. There'll be a billion people that think differently, but then there'll be some that agree. So I totally get that one.
To answer Beth's question, the Earth is run of the mill. So it's all the same stuff. The Earth is run of the mill. I don't think we're the hardest. I don't think we're the best planet. We're just a standard lifestyle in a valuable area because we have a natural bridge system near us.
Right. Thank you. Next question. Do you want to ask it? It's from Susie B.
Susie wants to know, do you remember if Venus was involved in any of this?
So Pluto, Saturn, and Venus were off limits to the organization that I worked for. So the CERES Colony Corporation was the name of it, under the Midnacht Waffen, if that's the right word. The midnight 0 hour. They called it 0 hour.
Right.
The CERES Colony Corporation was not allowed to go to Venus. So there were advanced ETs there that would shoot us out of the sky if we got close. It was the same around Saturn. We would get in trouble. There was like a fine or something. Like, they would get ejected from Saturn and Pluto. There's a non-human race that has Pluto that don't do business with anybody else. Like, Pluto is all on its own. It's its own colony, and it's not humans. So, but yeah, Venus was an advanced world, and we were not allowed to go there because they had slave labor, because they had slaves on board. So. A lot of the more advanced species didn't want anything to do with us. Energetic hygiene is I guess the term I'd call it. Yeah.
No, thank you. This has popped up. This is one that I was going to ask you earlier, but it completely went. So Ricardo's put, time travel is real, and it said that Nikola Tesla created a time machine. So obviously time travel is real, because you wouldn't have been able to go back to your 10-year-old self after spending 20 years, I suppose, growing up.
That's right. And the lack of time in my life. So like I said, for me to know and have memories, intimate memories of a long time in a place, and then it's not in my lifetime. So just the lack of that, plus with the memories, is proof that there's a time manipulation somehow.
Yeah.
You know, there's a time dilation. So yeah,
Yeah.
time travel is absolutely, time isn't what we think it is. I don't think we're built to think about time correctly. I really just think we don't have the mind for it.
Yeah. So
And,
yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, so it's not necessarily like a machine like you get inside the car or you get inside the ship. It's not a machine like that. It's just a way of changing time and moving it.
I'm lagging again. I hate it, but I honestly, I don't know. The ship itself, when it made a bridge, when it portaled, could go back and forth in time a certain amount, and so it could time travel. And there were smaller devices that required a lot of power that could create portals, and I assume go back and forward in time. So I wasn't really versed on the mechanics of that. You know, I was a cargo engineer, so I didn't need to know what was going on with that stuff. But yeah, time travel is absolutely possible. We were aware that there were there were beings that are outside of time space that police time travel. So you can time travel to a certain extent, and if not, beings would come and make it right. So there is an authority that if you would like if you go back and destroy the world, that they would step in and not let it happen. So we were aware that there were beings. They were not in time space. They were not people. They were beings that were outside of time space that policed it.
Right. I've got another question for you. It's just popped up, and I don't know if it's going to be a good question. And I know you say it's never a bad or wrong question, but Bigfoot and Dogman, did you encounter any of these cryptids whilst out and about?
It sounds like Jessica asking that.
Sorry, not Sarah. But
so we at one point did transport soldiers that were in an armor. They were in an armor suit, and they behaved like robots. So the guy had a dog whistle that he blew, and he blew the whistle, and they would sit down. Their pants would lock. They were in armored pants, and they would sit down, and their pants would lock, and they would sit in place for hours. For hours on, they would just go idle, and they were alive. They were living beings inside there. And when he blew the whistle, they all just stood up, and they were completely obedient. And they were exactly like what the Dogman is described to be. They had the helmet, the shape of their head. The helmet wasn't shaped like ours. It was shaped like the Dogman's face.
Yeah, with the
it came down and went out like this, and then like they had a smaller head, like a dog head would fit in it.
Yeah.
And Jason Rice, who was another whistleblower who since quit talking about he got harassed greatly. When he came public, he's quit. But he and I spoke privately on the phone, and it was exactly the same. He said those soldiers were hybrids of dogs and like a werewolf version, and that was the Dogman. And that when places that the Dogman has been seen has been an experiment where they run it out in the woods and experiment on its abilities. Like a new version of it. So yes, Bigfoot's another story.
Yeah.
But
so quick. So would you say Dogman is manufactured? So
yes, it's a soldier.
Yeah.
It's a soldier. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. It's not.
Well, that goes along with what you've been talking about with the high occurrences of like UFOs and craft sightings, and then Bigfoot and Dogman.
That's right. My friend of mine, I've had him on my show, Talks with Tony, is he owns the Bigfoot Museum, the big in Georgia. And we were talking about it, and he said, when somebody sees an elk, they say, "Oh man, on the way here, I saw this beautiful giant elk," and then it walked into the woods. And then they see a deer. And I saw a deer, and then it just walked off in the field. He said everybody that reports seeing a Bigfoot, they say, saw a Bigfoot, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
They never say that it walked away. They say that it disappeared. It walked to the edge of the woods, and then it disappeared. So that's indicative of something that's using a different technology and disappearing. And so, that's not my personal wheelhouse, right? I'm telling you third person after a third person. I'm sticking with what I know, but That's what I've learned. And for when you put it like that, that makes a lot of sense. And to me, I think the Bigfoot is absolutely an extraterrestrial. And I think people are a side note to some things to be studied on the earth, and that ETs would come here and not even bother with humans and study the forests and the sea. So
no, thank you. I'm just trying to take this all in and without my brain exploding. It's just so fascinating, and it's something else. It's just something else completely, because you've got all these different levels of the phenomena kind of all coming together, but then at the same time being completely separate. And
well, when you look at a lot of the like psychic ability and spirituality and then extraterrestrials influence, it all is the same thing.
Yeah.
Because they're all very important aspects of the human condition that has been denied from us. So, you know, we can't see the subject matter, but we can see the blacked out lines.
Yes.
And in psychic phenomenon and spiritual phenomenon and extraterrestrial phenomenon, they're all blacked out. So that information has been hidden from us on purpose, because they've used it to stay ahead of us, to rule us with it.
Yeah.
They use that. And so that's why they don't want us to know. And they're all the same thing. It's the same common denominator. If you knew, like I said, if you knew what death was like, you wouldn't worry about it. Or, you know, you'd embrace it. You would change your behavior if you were not scared of dying. If you knew about ETs, you would change your behavior. You would want to aspire and be like them. Why? I want to go see what's on there. I want to go too. That's what everybody would do. Yeah. And if you were aware of psychic phenomenon, you would aspire to be psychic. If you thought, wait, I can do that. If you actually believed it, but we've been programmed, remember, not to believe it. We've been programmed to not believe it. We've been programmed to question the Catholic Church for all the abuse, and question spirituality for all its conflicting versions of spirituality, and question the ET thing. It's on the National Enquirer in the aisle at checking out at the store, so you laugh at it. Yeah. So when somebody, you see that, you're checking out, you're thinking about your food and your money, you look and you go, oh, Madonna gave birth to a reptile baby, and then, oh, my soul in space. There's always a bunch of stuff there. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And so you just go on, you forget about it. But then somebody later says, oh man, there's a UFO. I saw one. I think, well, yeah, like Madonna had a baby reptile. Sure. Yeah. And that giggle factor. We're programmed quite easily to laugh at things and to not believe things. And the common denominator is the fact that they're blacked out, that they keep coming back.
Yeah.
Spirituality doesn't go anywhere. We're always being born and we're always dying, and both are very spiritual experiences. Psychic phenomenon doesn't go anywhere. People, when they reach a certain age or when they hit a certain version of health, they get very psychic. Everybody's got some kind of story that they just brush off. Like, oh, I guess I got lucky. I don't know. I guessed it. And whatever. I knew this car was coming, and I pushed the guy out of the way, and he lived. I mean, I guess got lucky.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a story like that. Really, if I sit and we all sit and dig.
Oh yeah.
Here, everybody's got a great psychic phenomenon story. But the same Enquirer, the same magazine at the grocery store made you laugh at it. Made you laugh at those abilities. The psychic medium, the old lady with the crystal ball that you're supposed to laugh at. And the UFO, the aliens took my baby. You know, so that we've been programmed and we don't even realize it. We don't even realize it.
I want to. So I was just going to say, the stuff that we're not brought to laugh at, we're taught to be scared of, that it's wrong. So it's either one end or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's always a duality. There's always a bad guy and a good guy.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it now. So I have my youngest daughter just started college. She's 18. Yeah. And if you're aware of what colleges are like nowadays, there's a great deal of programming there. So I think that the LGBTQ, whatever, I'm going to screw it up. I don't know the acronym, but I think that those people, homosexual people, were very badly treated for much. They were badly treated in a social way for a very long time. So to see them kind of some form of liberation and some form of like stop picking, when we were kids, Back in the 80s, it was like if there's a gay guy, you know, you should beat him up. So that was the consensus.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that go away and they have some inclusion. However, you can also see that they're pushing the agenda on the kids. But that doesn't mean, but then you look at it and go, wait a minute, were they pushing an agenda on us? Were they pushing the nuclear family on our parents and on us? Are we programmed to believe that the prince and the princess and you got one person and you get married and then you raise your kids? Because what would that do? Because you look at the pushing of this agenda and it's going to lower the population. Pushing the other increases the population. They were making soldiers. So they were controlling us the whole time. They were cranking out soldiers for wars. I discovered if you look at the population, just in the United States, if you look at the population spikes, because I wondered, I was like, they're programming us with these commercials in the TV. And I thought, when I was a kid in the 80s, it was all boobs and butts on TV. It was like girls really, it was very sexualized. It's gone now. It's gone. There is no sexualization on television, media, anywhere. And I thought, what happened with that? And I looked. 1986, I think, or 84 was the biggest population spike of babies born.
Yeah.
20 years before 9/11, before we had a war. And then you go back 20 years in 1950 before Vietnam, and you go 20 years before Vietnam, it was another population spike. They were getting ready for the wars. They knew that the war, they were planning it out and they needed bodies for the wars. And we would have big population spikes 18 years or 20 years right before the wars happened. And then the wars happened and this population would go back down. And the media directly reflects it. What they were showing us in the media during those spikes, it was like I said, everybody's half naked and making out on TV. All across the media, it was about hooking up. And then now it's the opposite, because they're going to disclose they don't need war anymore. Now they have a camera in everybody's pocket. So they don't need the war. So now they're just going to lower the population, and we've been programmed in both directions. So that's my point.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Sorry, and I know it's risky to say that stuff.
I didn't even think of it like that, but it makes so much more sense than anything else I've thought about.
Yeah. Yeah, you said
pandemics that, you know, so many people died during, the numbers are definitely going to go down. And I know a lot of people in my generation and the generation after are just not having children. They've just decided.
Oh no, it's not cool anymore. It's
They're
totally
just
not.
for them.
So when I was a kid, it was cool. You had to find a wife and stay with her and have kids. And it was mom, dad, it was the Prince Charming and the princess in the tower, and you were going to rescue her and have a family. That was cool. And it's not cool now.
2.4 children, wasn't it? That's what the thingy was.
Yep. And it was for soldiers. Like I said, that was 20 years. I was a kid 20 years before 9/11, and we went into a war footing. The whole, you know what I'm saying? We went into a war. We did Iraq, and all those wars happened.
Yeah.
So, sorry, man, I'm on a tangent.
No.
I am not running for office.
Not yet.
Not ever.
Not ever. No. Right. Got 3 more questions. Is that okay? We're doing quickly because we've got like less than 10 minutes to go.
Okay.
Yeah, is that right? So this is from Derek Galloway. He's asking, I wonder if Tony is familiar with Project Tobacco Dod's whistleblower program.
Not at all. That's the first I've ever heard of it. So I'll look it up. Project Tobacco. We'll make it up.
Department of Defense.
Say that again.
DOD, Department of Defense.
Oh, I'm glad you know these acronyms because I have not got a clue.
That's why you need an American.
Yeah. I know OMG and WTF and that's about it. It stops there.
So I spent a lot of time on because I'm researching what I remember and what I went through. So I spent a lot of time on the CIA declassified library.gov. And I found that if you use ChatGPT and put the same document in ChatGPT and in the library, you get 2 different results. So there's a lot of documents in that the CIA site gives you, and they're nerfed. They're watered down. And you put it in the ChatGPT, you put in the AI, and it comes with a different same document, but with more stuff in it. And so I've been doing that. I spend a lot of time. That's That's what I do for my recreational reading. Is I pour through 1980s research, declassified documents on the funding for remote viewing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Next one is from Midwest Night Watchers, Gerald, and he is asking, is there a bridge or portal in or around the Big Dipper?
I honestly don't know. I wish I did know that. I wish I could give you a clear yes or no on that, but I don't know. I was also told in a conversation the same thing. Like, we didn't trade with any nearby stars. So if you're on the Earth, you can see about 3,000 stars at night. I think that's the number. So on the naked eye, you can see about 3,000 stars. I was told by my superiors on the ship that we didn't go to any of those, that they were everything was basically the same price in that range. So you think about it, they were looking to trade. So if you're looking to trade products, in the United States, all the prices are the same. So you're not going to get a big break. So you want to go to Thailand or China, somewhere where labor is short, and you'd get a deal and then take that and bring it back to the US and sell it for a profit. Our trading was the same way. We were looking for technology, and all the nearby stars had the same technology already. So all the organizations that live there. So we never went to the Big Dipper, is what I'm saying. So there could be, but we just never went there. We were looking for a deal. So we were always going very far away in our missions.
Yeah, thank you. And last question is from Dogman UK, and he's asking, question, Tony, did you see giant spiders on Mars?
Yes.
There you go.
I have some artist renditions on it. I don't know if it's on my website anymore, but in the book, there's an artist, like a comic book picture that an artist did. He's actually a comic artist, and he did them. He made pictures for me, and it was a large spider.
Yeah. Right, that is all the questions done. We are coming up to the 2 hours. Nicole, have you got anything you want to add before we finish off?
I say that I found all this very fascinating. It's so hard to get your head around it because it's changing the entire way you think about the whole universe.
Right, exactly. We've been programmed to not think about it. They are still trying very hard to program you to not think about the sky.
Yeah.
They want you to don't look up. It's world's flat. There's nothing up there. No moon mission ever happened. Don't look up. Nothing. Don't look up. And so when your mind opens up to that, it's like it changes your whole demeanor.
Yeah. I'm going to be driving around like that all day tomorrow, just staring.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to do a quick promo. I have Talks with Tony on Patreon. I teach remote viewing groups on Patreon, remote influencing. And I do those. I have like 3 meetings a week that I do. And you can access all that through my website, TonyRodrigues.com. Plus my 2 books, Ceres, Colony, Cavalier, and Project STARMAKER. I'm working on 2 more books, A Brief History of Remote Viewing, and another book chronicling what it's been like talking to you people, like my autobiography of since I got my memories back. So that's the next books I'm working on. And I've got 5 or 6 speaking engagements throughout the year. And I'm very happy with everybody's been very kind and very loving to me, sharing. And, I've been attacked too. Like I've been embarrassed too, but it comes with the territory. I'm not afraid of it. And so thanks for having me on. And it's a very pleasure to be here. And I'm working on some cool stuff. I'm not done. So I'm still working on some very cool stuff with what I remember.
Good to hear and look forward to
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hopefully you'll come back on in the new year once you've got the information that you're working on and put it all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I'd love to.
Keep in touch and we'll sort something out for say Easter or around that time.
Anytime. Yeah. Just let me know.
Yeah, 100%. Right, that's it. We're gonna end this now. Just before we go, are you on Friday, Nicole, or not?
Not supposed to be, but
you can if you want. So Tommy will be on as well, and we're gonna be chatting to Wild Bill. So he's been on before. He's a top guy. He's over in America. I can't think. think he's South Carolina around there. I'm probably got it completely wrong, but I'm sure he's like that area. He's on Friday, but on Saturday, 3 p.m. UK time, which is 10 a.m. I have to count on my fingers then. So me, Nicole, and Tommy are going to be doing our first podcast together. We're going to do a proper introduction to Tommy and Nicole, what they do, and all that. But I've got a bit of a surprise for them as well, but don't tell anyone. So that's it. So that's what's coming up this weekend. So you're getting Friday and Saturday. But massive thank you to Tony for coming on. Absolutely appreciate it. And thanks for being brutally honest with the answers to the questions. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you.
So
I'm happy to be here.
No, it's been great having you. Honestly, it really has. Like I said, it's one of those things that's been, I want to know about it, but you've got to find the right person that you know is telling the truth, and I think that's the hard part. And then I eventually found you through Michael, and yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. So
I thought there'd be a lot more people like me talking about it, and sadly there's not. So
no,
it is what it is.
You're the only one. I can't find anyone else anywhere. I might be looking in the wrong places, but just nobody. So, but I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing everything that you have. So, thank you again. So, yeah, we'll see you on Friday at 8 p.m. So, there'll be me, Nicole, Tommy, and Bill. And if you miss that, then that's your fault and you don't deserve to watch anymore. No, I'm only messing. Yeah, so that'll be 8 o'clock and then 3 o'clock on Saturday. So, right, have a great 2 days and see you then. Take care. And bye.
Bye.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Nicole.
Ha 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 ha.